Hey folks, welcome back to another edition of My Car Guru. I do have some good news for you this morning or this afternoon or whenever you're listening. If you really want to buy a new car, but you can't afford to spend any more than $30,000 or less, which makes sense for a lot of budgets, then I've got a good list of vehicles here for you. More than I thought that were still available. And I kind of broke it down between passenger cars, and then, of course, they're cheaper to build, and then SUVs and trucks. Unfortunately, fortunately for me, is that the only truck that's available that's under $30,000 is sold by Ford. And I happen to be a Ford dealer. The Ford Maverick, and boy, is it selling. It really is. Based on our local sales, though, most of them are to people over 50 years old. We do sell some to folks in the, a little younger than that, but really under 30, they're not interested in a Maverick. If I had a kid that was going to college right now, I wanted to buy them a safe, small vehicle that was practical. I don't care if it was a girl. I'd put her in a Maverick. I wouldn't give her a choice. I said, honey, you can have a Ford Maverick, or let's see, how about a Ford Maverick? I don't want a Ford Maverick. Well, I know you don't want one, but it makes a lot of sense, and it's probably going to have good resale value. And we put a little bed cover over the top, and you can haul all your stuff. You can take so much stuff, and you can go to the stores, go to the malls, go shop, and buy all kinds of stuff. What? Yeah, well, take that last part back. We can just use one trip to get you into your dormitory, and you can still haul 5 friends around. Really? Yes, and it has a great sound system and places to put all kinds of water bottles, and it's just very practical. Okay. See, that wasn't a hard sell. So for the parent, it's great because you can get pretty low payments. I calculated a few here. 60 months, $30,000 financed, which would be the top of this category, at 5.9% APR for let's see here. Let me scroll back down here. 60 months, $578 a month. Still pretty big monthly payment, but the average monthly payment right now is close to $800 a month for cars. Now, if you were to finance that same vehicle for 84 months, then the monthly payment would be $437 a month. So $579 for 60, you would save $142 a month to finance it for 84. However, you would pay about $2,000 more in interest over that period of time. So that's the financial side of this. Let's talk about some of the vehicles that are available for under $30,000. The Honda Civic, $25,890, very highly rated. Considered a high-quality vehicle, good resale value, good economy, and they drive pretty good, too. I'm a Honda Civic fan. I'm not a Honda dealer. Doesn't mean I don't like them. Toyota Corolla. It's less, $23,125. A good conservative buy, dependable. A lot of people think they're the most reliable vehicles on the planet. I wouldn't go that far. But they are inexpensive to own. See, that's another thing. You don't buy your kid a BMW or an Audi or anything that's going to cost a lot of money to service it. They need to be able to drive into a dealership and pay $100 or less for an oil change and to keep their tires rotated. And people don't think about that. And also, before you buy any of these cars, you get a quote on what's the insurance going to cost for your young driver. You will be shocked. It's expensive, but some of these cars insure for considerably less because they are less complicated and they're easier to fix if involved in an accident. They don't have the real expensive headlights and taillights and all that kind of stuff that you have to get up in the $35,000 to $50,000 range to start getting those kind of problems. Okay, the Mazda 3. I was a Mazda dealer for many, many years. It's more upscale feeling, a little bit more sporty, beautiful interiors, $25,885. I'd put that on my list. Another one I'd put on the list for sure is a Nissan Sentra. Been around a long time. Again, in the mid-20s. Excellent value. Lots of features for the money. Has all of the accident avoidance software and hardware that you need to, cross traffic alert, rear traffic alert, automatic emergency braking, all of that stuff is standard on a Nissan Sentra. I would give it a hard look. Hyundai Elantra, $23,870. Lots of equipment for the money, just lots of issues when it comes to engines and things like that. Same thing with the Kia K4. It's mid-20s. It looks pretty, but they have issues when it comes to engines and things like that. But you're covered by a long warranty, so who cares? Well, unless you have to take it to the shop all the time. Subaru Impreza. It's going to be all-wheel drive. So if your kid's going to school north of the Mason-Dixon line, that might be a best consideration. $27,790. So it's probably the best all-wheel drive car in the bunch. Subaru Crosstrek is another one. It's considered an SUV that's under 30. So is the Mazda CX-30. Again, I really like Mazdas. The CX-30 is $27,870, sporty, upscale, kind of a small crossover. However, the Subaru does come with standard all-wheel drive for about $100 less. Chevy Trailblazer. We have a local dealer that has really stocked up on those. They are a nice little front-wheel drive SUV. Can get it in all-wheel drive. Base price is $25,095, so it's several $1,000s less if you want to drive a Chevrolet. It is affordable. It's got good space, good for a kid going to college. Toyota Camry LE, getting up knocking on the door of $30,000 at $29,600. It's going to be hard, though, if you add any equipment to keep it under $30,000. So we'll take our first break. We'll come back and talk about some of the other choices, including more SUVs and the only truck in the bunch, the Maverick. Okay, I am back. I've had a number of requests to do it's kind of like the teen driver experience that we do at Gateway Ford, my dealership in Greenville, Tennessee, except they want me to do it for adults, married or unmarried. They don't care. They just don't know anything about cars because they never learned. They didn't have anybody to teach them. And so I'm going to do that. I am going to do another teen driver experience in Septiembre. I think that's how you say it in Spanish, September. And then I'm going to do the adults in Octubre, which I think that's October, from my 9th grade Spanish 1. And so it'll be a slightly different approach, although, I had a Tennessee state trooper come and show young people how to handle a traffic stop and not end up with handcuffs on you. And actually had a state trooper pull his trooper vehicle into the showroom right behind a brand new, what did we put? A Nissan Rogue with my daughter in it. And they pretended like it was a traffic stop. When somebody tells you how to handle something or how to do something, it's quite different when they show you. You just get that sense of realism. There was some role playing going on. And the trooper was talking about the things that he looks for, how he wants to protect himself and, protect the driver as well. What he wants you to do if you see the lights, where to pull over, where not to pull over, what to do with your hands. Yes, he talked about that. He wants to see your hands, both of them. And if you're a young person and, your hair's all messed up and, the car's real ratty looking and, you didn't really behave, you're driving 100 miles an hour, he's going to be a little bit more aggressive. And so these are the kind of things they need to be aware of and avoid those kind of situations. Do parents or elderly folk need to know that as well? Yeah, because I've seen them on YouTube and TikTok how a lot of adults behave with cops. And it's not good. It's like they're way worse than a child would be. So we may do that. I don't know. We're definitely going to talk about how vehicles work. We're going to get up underneath them and show them all the major systems, whether, if a service advisor is recommending you do this to this particular operation to a vehicle, what is he talking about? What does that mean? We have to clarify some of that. Show you how to check the oil, jump start a car, check your transmission fluid, where to put windshield washer solvent, how to check if you have enough antifreeze in your vehicle, how to put air in your tires, how to change a flat. Of course, not many people do that anymore because we have cell phones now. Before you had cell phones, you either had to go to some stranger's house, knock on the door, or change the tire. And it's just something that nobody knows how to do anymore. So be looking for that if you're local. If you're not local, I'll have a guidebook that goes along with it that I can email to you. So let's get back on this best choices for under $30,000. We already talked about the only truck. It's the Ford Maverick. Why is it so cheap? Well, because it's built differently. And Ford is using that same platform, that same chassis, the basic structure of the vehicle on the Ford Escape and on the Bronco Sport. Now, the Ford Escape is going away. We've got an all-new vehicle coming out. It won't be called the Escape. We don't know what it's called. But I've seen it, saw it in Las Vegas, and it looks like a Nissan Kicks on steroids. It's very angular and boxy, which I like. So the Ford Maverick is $27,145. By the way, all of these prices do not cover transportation of getting the vehicle to the dealership. And I was asked that question the other day by somebody. How come they charge the same transportation fee on every single vehicle sold in the United States? Well, of a particular model. And I said, because if you live right next to a plant, then you would think that that cost would be less because they only have to go across the street. But no, they charge everybody the same, or everybody would be wanting to buy their vehicles from that dealer because they cost $1,000 or $1,200 less than it does anyplace else. So they charge the same freight charge on every Ford Maverick, on every Chevrolet Trax, on every Hyundai Kona. So you have to always, whenever you see MSRP, that does not include freight or transportation cost. And that right now that's running about anywhere from $1,200 to $1,500 per vehicle. So another choice, Nissan Kicks. We sell a lot of those. It's not our best-selling Nissan. Our best-selling Nissan is the Nissan Rogue. But again, you get the entire safety suite of technology that can keep you safe for $22,730. It is labeled the best affordable SUV value on the market. Chevrolet Trax, $23,495. It has some good space in it. It's cute. Made in Korea. The Toyota Corolla Cross. This is a little SUV, real small, built on a Corolla chassis. Give or take $25,000. And again, it's a Toyota, and a lot of people think that they are the most reliable, even though that's not always the case. Mazda CX-30. Did I already mention that one? Yes, I did. So that's on two lists here. The Hyundai Kona. You ever been to Kona? I think that's in Hawaii. My grandfather from West Virginia used to say, it's Hawaii. Like, hey, how are you? Its base price is $27,100. A lot of tech, a lot of styling. Again, that's what Kia and Hyundai are known for. Styling, technology, not necessarily for reliability. And it's something to think about. A lot of people buy them because they feel like they're a value. And they are at the purchase. It's just when you trade them in, the story changes. Honda HR-V, very popular, solid all-around choice, $27,950. Then you have another Subaru. I think we mentioned it too. It was the Crosstrek, yes, or Crosstrek. All Subarus are all-wheel drive. Comes standard. Now, I go back to the Nissan Kicks. last year or the previous year, well, when it first came out, it replaced something called the Nissan Juke, Juke. Thank goodness. It was horrible looking. It was right when I was becoming a Nissan dealer. And when that dealer sold to me, he had 3 Jukes. A year later, we still had those 3 Jukes. And it was a joke, not a juke, trying to get rid of them. But we finally did. So we talked about the Crosstrek, the Kia Niro Hybrid. If you want a hybrid, here's one for $28,885. Biggest advantage is what? Gas mileage. And then the Hyundai Venue, that's another SUV. It seems like they make a lot of SUVs. Of course, if you go to any parking lot, anywhere, you used to see passenger cars, like Sentras and Altimas and Accords and Civics. And back in the old days, Chevelles and Camaros and Mustangs and LTDs and Crown Victorias and Caprices. You know, you saw all those passenger cars. And doggone it, they were just more interesting looking because there was more variation. I mean, there's only so many things you can do with an SUV or a crossover. I used that term crossover until I was tired of saying the word crossover. And thank goodness the industry decided to stop calling them crossovers, which was basically a passenger car becoming an SUV. It was a marriage of those two concepts. Now they just call them SUVs, thank goodness. But there's only so many things you can do with a vehicle that's shaped like that, like a shoe with a hatch. I mean, they change the taillights. They do little tricks on the D-pillar and the C-pillar to make the car look sportier. All it does is makes the vehicle harder to see out of. Thus, you need all these cameras, which I love cameras. But it's nice to be able to go down the road and just turn your head and see if anything's back there. But that's practically impossible on any SUV now. Passenger cars you can still see out of for the most part. So another thing to consider if you don't want to pay monthly payments, most of these vehicles are going to have pretty attractive leases on them. And if I'm going to get a vehicle for my kid, and I know that they take good care of their vehicles, and they're going to be using it to go to and from school, and they're not going to be putting more than like 15,000 miles a year on the vehicle, I'll let them figure a lease for me, and then I can keep them in a new vehicle all the time and have a much lower monthly payment. So instead of having a $500 monthly payment, you may have a $350 monthly payment or a $300 payment. That's getting pretty good, isn't it? Especially as high as tuition is and all the other costs. Is insurance going to cost you more if you lease versus purchase? No, marginally. But it will be, as my cousin Larry used to say all the time, Lenny, that's de minimis. I said, what does that mean? He says, it's small, little. I said, why don't you just say small or little? He liked the big words, de minimis. And then I guess you want to look at the fuel economy because that's important. Technology is expensive, so what's the warranty? And seriously consider buying an extended service contract. Just don't pay too much for it. You can go right up the road from where I work, Gateway Ford and Gateway Nissan. You can pay, well, if you ask them how much an extended warranty is going to cost, they're going to say it's going to be $35 a month. They don't want to tell you how much they're charging for it, that they're charging you $3,500 for a $1,800 warranty. If you buy it from me, it's $1,800. Buy it from them, it's $3,500. I had a customer come in here bought a Nissan Altima from one of these yahoos, and I said, you know that you bought an extended warranty? He said, no, I didn't know I bought an extended warranty. I said, well, you did. What did I pay for it? $5,500 is what you paid for it. What? Can I cancel it? And I said, yes, you can. You can cancel it, but you financed the vehicle, and so the cancellation money will go to the lender who loaned you the money, and then you'll just have a lower balance on your loan. And he asked me if it would lower his monthly payment, and I said, no, unfortunately, it will not. What should have happened is before you let them slap that extended warranty on it, well, probably you didn't even know it was in there. A lot of these places, folks, will quote a payment that's loaded up with all these aftermarket products in the finance office, and they'll act like that's your monthly payment. They won't give you a base payment and then tell you what these extra things will cost and then how much that will cost per month. They make more money hiding things from you. So I know that your daughter or your son that goes with you to buy this car for college or their future education or their new job, whatever, they're really excited. But please do not let that influence you as far as stopping and thinking about what you're doing and looking at the numbers. Get a printed buyer's order from any dealer that you're doing business with. And I used to say one of the best ways to buy a car was online. Not anymore. That is the danger zone, because what you think you're getting online is being taken away from you when you go to the store. All they do, and they admit it, is they give you a low price to look at online so they can get you there. So they think that their odds are better of selling you a vehicle if they at least get you in and then have to apologize than to not get you in at all. And so, unfortunately, that's the way it is. Okay, I'll be back in just 1 minute. Okay, I am back. Under 30,000, it can happen. It's weird, though. 10 years ago, we had cars that we could sell in the mid to high teens. You could buy a Nissan Versa for like $16,995. Can't do that now. What's caused the inflation? Cost of raw materials and all the extra money they have to pay the workers that are building these things, the labor unions. The cost of development of the vehicles has gone up. The cost of marketing, the cost of transportation, everything. So, it's hit automobiles just like it's hit groceries and gasoline and other things. Well, thanks for listening to this edition of My Car Guru. If you need help in buying a new vehicle or a used vehicle for your kinfolk, reach out to me through text 423-552-2020. I'll call you and we'll talk it through. Yeah, I'll do that. And I'll see you on the next My Car Guru.